Now that we know that we have the offset right, I want to recenter it, so I'm going to take the X value and just enter 0 there. And next I'm going to create keyframes for the rotation. So to do that, I have to place my time cursor at the beginning of the clip, double click on it. Now I'm going to keyframe the rotation, so what I want to do is set a keyframe here, and I'm going to start out at 10 degrees. Then I'm going to place the cursor at the other end of the clip, arrow back 1 frame, create another keyframe, and this time at -10. And as you can see, as I scrub through this now, the background image is moving just the way we want it to. And we're not seeing any edges show up, so that's good. Okay, so the next step then is to do the same thing to the planet's surface. Double click. First thing I'm going to do is move the anchor point -2000. If you haven't done much compositing in Final Cut Pro, you might not be aware, but you can change the resolution of the canvas window. I've sent something so far out of frame that I need to zoom out quite a bit to see it. Here's my item. I drag this back down. Let's zoom back in now. I'll go up to Fit to Window. And now let's test that anchor point offset. As I move the rotation, this is the point it's rotating around, and that really doesn't offset it far enough. I want it closer to this shadow edge. So I went to -2000, and that is obviously not nearly far enough. I'm going to now go to, let's say, -5000. Once again, our image has disappeared right off the page. Change my resolution out to 12%. There's my image now, and I can drag that back down to the frame. And let's zoom back in on that. Fit to Window. And now we have our rotational point is right up around the shadow edge, which is where I wanted it to be. So now when I go in and rotate this, it rotates around the point I wanted it to. That's good. I'm going to recenter it horizontally, setting that to 0. And now it's time to set up the keyframe for the rotation of the planet's surface. Coming down here, I'm going to place my time cursor at the beginning of the planet's surface. I'm going to double click on it to make sure that whatever changes I make on the motion tab are referring to the right clip. I'm going to create a keyframe, and I'm going to adjust the rotation around to +14. This green diamond means that there's a keyframe there, and it's now holding that value for me. Next, I'm going to move the time cursor to the end of the clip and back 1 frame. I'm going to create another keyframe, and I'm going to change this value to -14. And now as we scrub through the timeline, we should see our effect taking place. And now you can see that the effect is basically looking pretty good. And as you adjust this, I've tinkered with this a lot, and as you adjust this, you may notice that it appears to your eye that the planet's surface is moving too fast or the planet's surface is moving too slow relative to the background. And if you think that they don't seem to be syncing up right, then you just want to change the distance, negative and positive. That is to say, I used +14 to -14 for my planet's surface. If you were to go +10 to -10, the surface would move a little less. If you went +20 to -20, the surface would move a little more. Whatever seems right to match the two images together so that you get a seamless illusion. That looks pretty good. Okay, let's take it one step further. In the next step, we're going to create an atmospheric haze. I'm just going to take the cursor and place it on the timeline at the beginning of the clips, and I'm going to just selecting those two layers. I'm going to drag them up. Then I'm going to take the circle, double click on it. Now I have a copy up in the viewer window, and I'm going to drag and drop that down underneath of the other two layers. I want this circle image to peek out from behind the planet slightly. So I'm going to double click on it, and I'm going to go to the Controls tab, and I'm going to make a soft edge. And I'm also going to reduce the size a little bit so that the softness just barely peeks out from behind. Now we have a tiny hint of a glow behind the planet. But where are our stars? When we created the new circle, it's a white circle on a black background. And now you're seeing the black background. If we want to key that out, we could go and do a Luma key, but there's a simpler way. I have the circle selected on the timeline, and I'm going to go up to Modify, Composite Mode, Screen. Now, screen is just a simpler way of making the dark areas transparent and the light areas visible. That allows us to see the hint of a glow behind the planet. And we can adjust the size of that circle to change the glow a little bit here. So I'm going to just double click on the circle again. I'm going to go up to these controls, and I'm going to try a little more softness. That's about right. And I think I'm going to take the transparency and knock that down a bit. And that's about what I'm looking for. I want just a hint of an atmosphere around the planet. It should glow just a tiny bit. That's about what I'm looking for. This may be a little difficult to see on the webcam, but it really just highlights the edge of the sphere. And I think for the last step, I want to change the color of the highlight, or the shadow, to something that'll complement the color of the planet. So let's try, we'll turn the saturation up, we'll pick the color, maybe, I don't know, yellow, orange. Let's go with something in the orange range. Increase the saturation, and the brightness is up already. Okay. And I picked orange because it's in the range of being an opposite to the blue-green that I have up here now. That looks good on my screen, but on the webcam it might not. If I bring the transparency back up a little bit, you'll probably see it a little better on the webcam. So now I'm going to just scroll through this a little bit there, and we see the effect of the planet rotating in space, a little glow behind from its atmosphere, and that's pretty much it. If you'd like to challenge yourself further, take a look at this. I'll only give you the hint that I used a filter called Channel Invert on the circle in order to create this texture. If you're in the Philadelphia area or South or Central New Jersey, I'm available for editing, compositing work, or even teaching you the ins and outs of Final Cut Pro. Please feel free to call.